It is Wednesday, October 13th, and it's 5:00 p.m. And let's do introduction of board members, and I'll call you out as I see you on my screen. Steve Rooney.
Steve Rooney from Starksboro, representing the Anwsd School District.
Thank you. Judd.
Judd Markowski, live in Bridgeport and WIB member for the Career Center. Thank you.
Nick.
Nick Colston, living in Shoreham, representing ACSD.
Kim.
Kim Farnham, I live in New Haven and I represent the Mount A board as a community at large member.
Lorraine.
Lorraine Morse, I live in Middlebury, and I am a representative of the Addison Central School District.
Christina.
Hey everybody, I'm Christina Macklin from North Ferrisburg, and I represent the Addison Northwest School District.
Missy.
Missy Beckwith, representing the Workforce Investment Board.
And then I will go through and call out for administrators. Dana.
Dana Peterson, Superintendent Director, Patricia Hannaford Regional Technical School District, occupying room 208 at the Hannaford Career Center with a guest, Doug Allen.
Thank you. Jay.
Jay Stetzel, Assistant Director, Hannaford Career Center.
And then for staff, there is Brenda.
Hi, Brenda Logie, School Counselor at the Career Center.
Kelly.
Kelly Mills, Sustainable Agriculture and Plant and Animal Science Instructor at the Career Center.
Patrice.
Patrice Alexander from Hannaford Career Center.
And then our guests are.
We have Mike.
Mr. Smith.
Well, we have Matt Smith. Yep.
And then Gretchen Bailey. And I think that's everyone that's online tonight, correct? MCTV. Oh, there's a, who is Robin Friedman? Is that is Robin Friedman?
Actually, Robin Friedman is my wife.
Oh, okay.
I'm Al Davis, and I created the video for your presentation and was invited to just learn more about the whole project.
Okay, great. Sorry for introducing you incorrectly.
That's okay.
As we go to approve the agenda, I would like to add in 2 items. I would like it to add in under correspondence, a letter of retirement and also a letter for a donation of an automobile. May I have a motion to approve the agenda with those added pieces?
Suzanne?
Yes, Dana.
You'll also need to add them to the action agenda for as well. So if they're first items on the action agenda, they will not take very long, I don't imagine.
All right, so both of those items will go to the consent agenda, the letter of retirement, and then the letter for donation of an automobile, as well as under correspondence.
So moved, Judd.
They do
Judd
not go
moved
under
it.
consent.
Excuse me?
They don't go under consent.
Or they
go
go
to
under action.
The action.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
So we'll put them under action. It has been moved by Judd and seconded by Kim to accept the revised agenda with a letter of retirement and a letter of a donation of an automobile under correspondence. And then those same 2 items are also under action agenda. Is there any further discussion or any items that we don't know about? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Your hand. Any opposed? Motion's passed. Do we have any comments from visitors? I don't see any raised hands, so I'm going to take that as a no. We'll move on. Correspondence, Dana, would you read the 2 letters that you have, please?
Yes, happy to. So let me start with the vehicle donation. This comes from MUHS and the driver's ed instructor, George Rooney. He says our older driver's ed car will no longer last due to some rust issues. It does, however, have a very good drivetrain and tires. Rather than send it to the scrap pile, we wanted to see if the Career Center would have a use for it in its instructional programs. Please let me know if you're interested, and we'll start the transfer paperwork. Esley Jones indicated that he looked at the car and would accept that as a donation, which has value for our program as an instructional tool. And then Logan Price from ACSD, I believe he's the business manager, said that the only thing that we need as soon as the transfer is complete is to provide a bill of sale. So pending the decision of the board later on the agenda, we would make arrangements for that donation to be transported to North Campus. The second, actually, Doug Atwood is here, so maybe he would like to read his own letter.
Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Hey, Doug.
Hard to believe it's been 21 years, and it's with a bit of remorse, but I have to move on. Anyways, this letter is dated October 13th, 2021, to Dana Peterson, Director and Superintendent, Church of Hannaford Career Center, and the Hannaford Career Center School Board. This letter is to inform you of my intent to retire as an instructor here at the Career Center, the end of the 2021-2022 school year, June 30th, 2022. This decision was very difficult, as teaching has given me such wonderful rewards in seeing young adults grow and mature. However, it is time for me to step aside and enter into the next chapter of my life. I would like to thank Dana for all his support and his vision of the machining world. It has been appreciated. Thank you sincerely, Alden Douglas Atwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And we will take that up in the action agenda, but please know that you have the board's thankfulness for all the years that you've served, and you'll hear that again when we take it up for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you all.
Thanks, Doug. Have a great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The minutes of September 8th and October 5th, I'm presuming everyone has read them and we're good to go. And then Nick, do you have the accounts payable?
I do. So building and reserve fund, these are expenditures in September. 12,506.00. General fund, 129,341.99. Revolving fund, 1,284.38. Makery, $1,116.00. And the payroll, 2 payrolls, one on September the 10th for $83,182.90, and one on September 24th for $81,572.78. These were all approved by Suzanne and myself.
And if anybody ever wants to join in the bill review, it's quite enlightening. So we'd be more than willing to share the wealth of reviewing bills with anybody else that wants to join our merry party. Missy, am I turning this over to you for EEI bond proposal presentation?
Yes, I think so. And you have one question. Are we playing the video?
I believe we are planning on that. Dana, that's correct, is it not?
I can cue that up.
I think the video does a nice job of summarizing the needs and where we started and where we are right now. And it will just tailor my comments because I can keep them shorter. And so I will assume that we're gonna, and I think everyone here, for the most part, has been with the facilities committees since we started this venture probably 3 years ago. And I guess what I wanted to offer is that what you're going to see and what you saw in the information that EAI sent is that the facilities committee is recommending going for what we're calling option A. It's a modified option A, but based on the survey results and the things that wanted to be added in, taking out the parking lot and some other things, and then looking at the longevity of the project, it really does make the most financial sense and shows the best stewardship for our buildings and the future of the Career Center. And what I would say with that is if we separated it and did absolutely what's necessary right now, we would be coming back to the voters and to this group a couple of years from now because we didn't do everything that was needed. And so as you watch the video and as you look at the presentation from EEI, that's the context that we're going into this with.
Okay, as soon as Patrice gives me screen sharing privileges, I will begin the video.
Dana, you should have it.
Nope. Says you've disabled it.
There you go. I made you host.
Thank you.
Not hearing any audio.
No, no audio.
No audio?
No audio.
Okay.
Dana, while you're working on that, do you want us to continue on?
I could also try to share my screen and play the video. No.
Let's try this. Yeah, you know. Can you hear the video?
No, not seeing anything either, Dana.
That's because I haven't shared. Okay, let me try sharing the screen again and you can tell me, but you should have been able to hear the video, but let's try this. If you can't hear it, we'll have to try somebody else. Anything?
No.
Okay. I don't know.
Dana, I almost wonder if what you need to do is let it run so it fully uploads and then play it back. I'm not sure, but
We don't have time for that. But let Missy try. I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'll let Missy try.
Patrice, can you make me a host, please?
Sometimes those things don't work if you have headphones plugged into your computer, but I don't know if that's it or not.
The video is also not playing very well, so I don't know if it may be better to put the link in the chat and let each of us just watch it individually on our own machines.
I'll do that now. Links there in the chat. Missy, I see the video, but I don't hear any sound.
I can hear it, but it's super faint, like you can barely hear it.
I'm not hearing anything. Can anybody else hear anything?
every now and then you can hear a bit of your voice, but not enough to understand.
Right.
Do you want to watch it independently then? Okay.
Can we also make sure that everyone else is muted? Because that may be part of the problem too.
Facilities committee.
It's working in the chat, by the way. It is working in the chat.
Issues were raised particularly by one of our facility members who was an engineer, is an engineer. And he was identifying several systems, mechanical and electrical, that were beginning to fail and having costly repair needs to be addressed. As a result, he encouraged us to look at a comprehensive way of addressing our needs and to do it in a cohesive manner that was not requiring us to address each question.
Are you playing it?
And
Yes.
be reactive.
Can you mute yourself?
Our care and stewardship of our building. As a result, we issued an RFQ and EEI.
I think that Mike might have to share the screen. You might have to share the screen with Mike, Patrice. I think that's the best way to
Able to
allow and not enable
that aging infrastructure in a comprehensive way. The state of Vermont is working on currently doing a needs assessment. For all
Mike, are you playing it?
in Vermont, and we are a little bit ahead of the game. By
I'm not sure.
be able to identify.
It looks like Kim is playing it.
Be able to develop strong, good quality, healthy systems that
So if we're watching it individually, then we should all be muted so that we don't hear someone else playing it.
Lieutenant of Maintenance here at the Hannaford Career Center. This is my 28th year here. I've been around the building a long time.
Kim,
We have.
can you mute?
There we go.
Can anybody hear that? No. Okay.
Are we supposed to be watching this separately, or what exactly are we doing?
That's my understanding. Everybody's supposed to.
Lorraine, watch it by yourself if you can.
Oh, all right.
The Facilities Committee for Hannaford Career Center issued integration of facilities into the learning experience of students is critical. And in order for us to provide learning opportunities, we need to begin with providing a safe and healthy learning environment. And that is what this whole project is about. We first began to think about initiating this project during my first year. Issues began to arise at the facilities committee level, and those issues were raised particularly by one of our facility members who is an engineer. And he was identifying several systems, mechanical and electrical, that were beginning to fail and having costly repair needs to be addressed. As a result, he encouraged us to look at a comprehensive way of addressing our needs and to do it in a cohesive manner that was not requiring us to address each question individually and be reactive, to be proactive in our care and stewardship of our building. As a result, we issued an RFQ, and EEI responded to that RFQ, and we have been working with them for the last 3 years. There has been a lot of emphasis statewide in Vermont about facilities needs and infrastructure upgrades, and the Hannaford Career Center is no exception to those needs. Our facility in places is over 50 years old, and we need to be able to address that aging infrastructure in a comprehensive way. The state of Vermont is working on currently doing a needs assessment for all of our buildings in Vermont, and we are a little bit ahead of the game by having begun this partnership with EEI to be able to identify what those needs are and to be able to provide strong, good quality, healthy systems that will enable our students to participate as fully as possible.
Hi, my name is John Kerler. I'm the head of maintenance here at the Hannaford Career Center. This is my 28th year here. I've been around the building a long time, and we have looked at saving energy and lots of different options throughout the years in my tenure. My goal has always been to save energy and to make things more efficient. So we started a conversation with the EEI about doing this project, and there are many needs here that are on the list.
2 years ago, the Facilities Committee for Hannaford Career Center issued an RFP for performance contracts. The goal was to both reduce energy costs in the building and upgrade some of the aging infrastructure. Through that process, which has been a 2-year study of the building during the pandemic, we learned a lot about the building and the end users. One of the things that we found is that much of the equipment and infrastructure is well past end of life. For HVAC equipment, 30 years is the anticipated useful life. 30 years marks the absolute newest equipment, which is the boilers in the boiler room in the district. Everything else is over 30 years.
The boilers were put in 1991, and they are at end of life. Again, all the equipment has been maintained, but things don't last forever.
Our recommendation would be to go to gas, high efficiency condensing boilers. Your current boilers have a maximum efficiency of about 82%. The new boilers will be 99% efficient and redundant.
Some of the maintenance challenges that we face are accessing our roof, which we have to put up an extension ladder.
equipment is at end of useful life. And a lot of that we went through. A big other focus was, again, creating a stairwell up to the sustainable ag, a new sustainable ag classroom and teacher's office. Oops, sorry. Let me see here. This is not the right value.
There's no other.
Hang on one second.
What was that you
Yeah.
just said, Nick?
The previous outline, I think, had an elevator included. That's no longer there, I noticed.
We've never had one in this proposal, Nick.
Okay.
That's correct.
There was talk.
Bear with me one second. I was somehow. That's correct. So from a big picture standpoint, while I look for the updated document here, and I have it here, I'll pull it up. We looked at trying to correct all these things at one project, which could potentially be completed over 2 summers. And the most typical way to get a project like that approved would be a bond vote. And there's many times where that could be done, but it's most commonly done in March or November in Vermont when there's other elections, although special bond votes can be held as well. For the scope that we talked about, it would include removal of asbestos, upgrading of the HVAC system, replacement of the boilers, fixing the plumbing code violations, and making the building ADA accessible, modernizing the electrical system, which would include electric car charging station at each location, and getting rid of the Federal Pacific panels, which are no longer manufactured and haven't been manufactured in decades, so it's very hard to get parts for. It would include a new digital control system, solar power on the main campus roof, flooring, which is in large part required when we get rid of the asbestos. We have to replace that flooring. There's also new ceilings. So as we put in new ductwork and new lights, we would replace the new ceiling and fix some of those drywall issues where the sound travels between the walls because there's not a gap, because there is a gap in between and you don't have a sound break. Replacement of all the narrow doors to full. There's a lot of doors around campus which are like 28 inches wide, which is very narrow for anyone with a wheelchair or a walker or a wider person. Just has a hard time with those types of situations. So that would be correct. And then modernizing what we call the casework. One of the things, all the what we call the kill work, casework or millwork is original and not in great shape. I'm going to shut my video off because it says my connection is a little unstable. We also include fixing the wood soffit around the perimeter of the school, putting a handrail at a code compliant handrail on the main stairs, and adding that classroom to North Campus. We estimate that an entire project like this would be around just under 8.1 million, and could be financed with a 20-year bond through Vermont Bond Bank. And interest rates we've seen anywhere from 1.85 to the low 2s. So it's a good time to be borrowing money with interest rates. I haven't seen a bond quote recently that was anywhere above 2.5, and I think we have some new ones coming for this project. So I don't know what the next steps are for the board, but I think if we do want to bring a project forward, it would be time to start planning that in the near future. And I think that's it. I think Missy came back on. She might want to.
Yeah, Missy?
Mike, can you transfer the host back to me?
Hi, do you have any other pieces that you'd like to add into what has just been said about the project?
I think the only thing that I would emphasize is through all of the work that the facilities committee did, the architects, the video, and kind of the site assessments that EEI did, I would offer that some of the items that we were describing as cosmetic at the outset really are less cosmetic and more necessary. And so I believe I speak on behalf of the facilities committee that we're hopeful to get approval to move forward with this. And the funding that we might see from the state and the savings for the energy isn't necessary. We don't know what that is necessarily, but feel it's important for the future of the Career Center that we move forward.
So, Missy, one question that I had, and maybe you don't have the answer. We're doing solar on the roof. Are we doing a battery backup for that solar, or are we just feeding it right into the power grid?
Mike, are you able to help with that question?
A battery backup is not included. We would just put a system that could meet the needs of your building.
Okay. All right.
This is just feeding the grid. You're just getting a credit on your power bill. You're not, this isn't a standalone system, if that's what you mean.
Well, what I was wondering was if we're generating power, and so we could fill our batteries so that if power went out, we could still run the plant with battery powered instead of have it just feed into the power grid and reverse the meter.
Yeah, that's an expensive proposition.
Yeah, okay. That was my only question because I didn't see it in here, so I wasn't really sure. Board, do you have any questions, Nick?
Well, on the solar panels, I was on the facilities committee before, and I thought the problem with the solar panels was that the roof wasn't strong enough to carry them. So is there anything that has changed?
Nick, so the issue was I believe we were considering solar panels for the North Campus as well. The life expectancy of that roof isn't such that it makes sense to install solar panels on it without replacing the roof. That isn't the case for main campus.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The main campus roof has a life expectancy that would allow us to install solar panels without replacing the roof.
Over 20 years.
Mike, this is Dana. Mike, Dave, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, two things. Can you transfer those to me before you forget? And
I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure how to transfer screen share, but
click on my name, and then click on more. And on the more, you should get.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I got it. You should have done.
Yep, I got it back. The real question that I had about this was that with respect to the solar panel generation, it's not going to actually eliminate our electric bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we would be, all of the solar generation would be used by the facility to reduce our overall costs, but not sending much back to the grid, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. We would look into, if the board wants to look at this, a net metering agreement, so that if there was a time where you're generating more than used, that you'd have that ability. We haven't gone to that next step yet.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board?
What stage are the drawings in? If we were to approve a bond, let's say in the next month, a bond push or a bond vote, how much time does Bandwell and ESV think they need to put their packages together?
Probably about a month. We did pricing off the drawings that we have already in narratives. So the numbers that we have are firm numbers at this point in time. Although I will say we live in a strange time for pricing construction.
Absolutely.
Been down pretty dramatically, but.
Are you guys doing that? Are you guys doing that estimating in-house?
These prices are good.
Are you doing that estimating in-house or are you outsourcing that?
In-house. Matt Smith, who's below me in Hollywood Squares here, did the estimates.
Okay.
So Lorraine and then Christina and then Nick.
Yeah, I'm not sure as a member of the committee why I didn't pick up on this before, but as I was looking at the presentation and then Nick's question also relit it in my mind. I'm assuming the kids that are who are going to be using that upstairs classroom at the North Campus are currently using space at our main campus, which has an elevator. So if a child is involved in the program that uses that upstairs classroom and is not able to use stairs, how would that work as far as disabilities rules and whatever? I mean,
you're referring to the ADA, Lorraine.
ADA.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't say ADA, but
So I can speak from a building code because of the very limited amount. It's just a single classroom. There are exemptions for when you have just such a small amount of your space on a second floor. In this campus, it would be well under 10% of the building. So from a it's allowable by code, and Bandwell did a very thorough review on that. But as for how to deal with the practical and where you would move them is a Dana question.
Yeah, that's something that's commonly a problem, is that the code does allow for an exemption in this case, but you also have to think about equity.
Right.
How you want to deal with the equity issue here. You might be able to qualify for a personnel lift here because it's an existing building and the cost of the elevator might be over a certain percentage of the cost of the project. That might be something to investigate separately and see if that's a possibility.
And I'll chime in now, Steve. There are two things that we have discussed, at least theoretically. One is we have a device that would allow people at main campus, if the elevator were not functioning, to go up and down stairs. The second is that we would, if this is not a temporary situation, but something that is like for the entire year or would be a 2-year program, we could actually reschedule one of our programs, because with this, we'll have 3 classrooms at North Campus, and we could just switch somebody from upstairs to downstairs where it wasn't an issue. So there is some flexibility with scheduling.
Yeah, so that's the best case, is if you can make accommodations without having to worry about it.
Okay, that's great, because I'm having a lot of families, people who have had wheelchair issues. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Christina, and then Nick.
Thank you. I just a few things that I wanted to check in about. Mike, you mentioned some energy savings projections in percent, And I was just wondering, are there going to be dollar figures attached to that? Like, we're going to save this amount of dollars between this and this for if we do this work? So that was one question. And
Yes. Yeah. In the board packet, it's in the investment grade audit, it includes it, and I believe it's 45,000 annual savings from this project.
Good. I suspect I probably missed it then. Thank you. And then, are you guys anticipating any issues with PCBs in this project? And I know Dana had something in his report about another area, so I was just wondering about that. And can you just remind us all the things that we are not doing this time that remain on the list of needs? Thank you.
So PCBs, we haven't done testing for it, so I don't know for sure. The electrical gear from the 70s, it's not terribly uncommon that there was PCBs back then, but that's all being replaced as part of this project. So should there be any, those will all be removed as part of the project. Things that were not done, there a lot of the what quickly comes to mind, but I'm sure I don't have the list handy. We didn't deal with the greenhouse, so the greenhouse windows and or glass was not in great shape. We didn't deal with that. That was one thing that got cut off the list. We don't have any new kitchen equipment in the project or any shop equipment, so there's no new equipment purchases. We didn't deal with the paving because that is you're sort of a tenant to you don't own the pavement on main campus. So we didn't deal with any of the pavement related projects that we looked into. I don't know if any, that's what comes to mind off the top of my head of things that were talked about but cut out.
Mike, there was a drop-off. There was talk originally about drop-off area for the students out front that we took out. And then the dust collector for the shop was talked about originally, that got taken out. But I think between what you mentioned and those two things, that covers most of it.
Thank you. Nick?
This was more for Dana. In your introduction, Dana, you said that the state was doing a needs assessment for all school buildings in the state.
That's correct.
How long is that going to take, and will there be funds available for this project? I mean, we're pretty well advanced, so maybe we can get the funds before they go elsewhere.
So that's a good question, Nick, and we haven't gotten any timelines on when funds will be available. They are just beginning the process of looking at needs. At this point, they have somebody who's a point person for doing that, but I am not aware that the ball is rolling in terms of site visits for people to do that. I can reach out to AOE and see if we can have John connect with the AOE director of facilities now that they've just hired to see when that timeline might be available.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you.
And also, is ACSD doing any? I mean, they had some big projects, Suzanne.
Nothing that has been brought forward to the board as of this point. Right now, they appear to be looking at busing and school choice.
Nick, back to your question, it's going to be a two-stage process. One is to identify the needs statewide. If they do that before they make any funding available, it could be 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second stage would be identifying a priority list of those school buildings that are in greatest need of renovation. I would imagine that our situation would be such that we would be on the top third of the list of qualified buildings, just based on the age of the Career Center itself. And the fact that other career centers have had upgrades in the last 10 and 15 years.
Probably first on the list is Burlington Technical Center, but that's another issue. Steve Rooney, you're next, and then we'll move on.
So my question goes back to schedule. If we move this to a bond vote, likely that would be March. Is that the plan?
I believe that's what has been discussed at the facilities meeting, Steve.
So that gives the design consultants a very short window to put out something if they were planning on trying to execute it for the end of the school year to start in the summer. Does Banwell and ESP feel they can break this into packages that can be executed over 2 years without exceeding the summertime construction schedule?
Mike did try to address that at the last facilities meeting. Mike?
Yeah, I think the intent would be to get some work done the summer of 2022 and then complete the project in September of 2023, so that would be the intent. I think once right now we're in a very weird situation where equipment lead times aren't what they used to be, and so I've heard some anecdotal things that by second quarter of next year we'll be back to normal on equipment delivery, but the intent, knowing what we know now, would be to try and get a third of the project done in 2022 and in 2023, and then work with John and Dana to coordinate any work that needs to be done during the school year and move things around accordingly.
Thank you. So, Facilities Committee, you are looking for a motion to move this forward? Is that what you're looking for?
That is what we're looking for.
So, Missy, would you like to propose your motion?
I would make a motion to approve the project as presented tonight by EEI to include all of the items in the presentation.
Thank you.
Second by Judd.
Moved and second. Excuse me, Nancy, did you say something?
I did not.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to approve the E&E Systems, Inc. EEI proposal with items 1 through 17 in it, with a grand total of approximately $8.1 million to move the project forwards. Is there any further discussion on that?
Should we be talking in the motion about the end goal here, which is to go for a bond vote in March? That would be the goal, right?
That would be a goal, but if we put it in we could put it in the motion, or we could discuss the actual bond time period at the next meeting also. But at least if we approve their packet, they can continue working.
Yeah.
Okay.
I personally think we need more details before we discuss timing precisely.
Okay.
Okay.
So are there any other comments on the current motion that we approve the package by E&E Systems, the EEI, Inc., with a projected grand total of about $8.1 million?
Suzanne, I'd like to interrupt. There was Missy did not put a dollar figure in it. She just asked that it be approved.
Okay. I just put the dollar value in it because that was the total of the 17 items that are in there. So we will remove, and I forget that I mentioned how much.
You can ask Missy, you can ask Missy if that's a friendly amendment.
Missy, can we add that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, we can add that as a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorraine, was that your hand raised to make?
Well, no, I was just, I was gonna say, I think we should put a dollar amount in the motion so people have a general idea of what we're expecting it to cost.
Okay. So with the friendly motion amendment, it's E&E Systems, EEI Inc., the proposal for the Patricia A. Hannaford Career Center. There's 17 items listed in there tonight with a grand total of approximately $8.1 million. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other conversation or discussion around it? I don't see any hands going up. So I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. So, Missy, I guess your committee has their marching orders.
That's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your support.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we are slightly behind schedule, so we're going to have to catch up. But it was great. Thank you all for all the work that you did on that presentation. And I really did love that video, and possibly we can use that when we go to talking about a bond and plastering that all over the countryside. So thank you all. Policy 2.3, the financial condition activities. I don't.
Take care of that.
The Austin?
Suzanne, Austin is out sick, so
okay.
I think I'll cover that for him. Try to make up a little bit of time here. This is a quarterly policy for policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities. There are 9 areas that we need to address. The first one is not expend more than has been received in the fiscal year to date. We currently have $2,031,260 encumbrances, leaving a total of $1,006,170 available. And we have a line of credit that allows us to draw in anticipation of tax and tuition revenues. Incur debt in an amount greater, we shall not incur debt in an amount greater than can be repaid. That is the line of credit. And in August, we took our first draw on a line of credit of $150,000 to cover payments. We shall not use any long-term reserves other than those expressed in item 7 below. And the long-term reserves reside in the BRF, and the actual fund in the BRF balance is $73,809 with a $20,000 transfer. It's almost $94,000. That transfer has yet to be made, but that money is available for the BRF at the appropriate time. That will probably be transferred later in the fiscal year, given the fact that we will be getting additional payments from the state and from our partner schools, which will allow us to retire the bond and then create a little bit more liquidity in the general fund and transfer that money to the BRF. Shall not conduct interfund shifting in amounts greater than can be restored to the condition of discrete fund balances within 45 days. There has been a single transfer of $24,000 from the general fund to the health reserve fund to cover both HRA and HSA related expenditures. And that was approved by the voters from the 2020 fund balance to the 2022 fund balance. That was voted on last March. Shall not fail to settle payroll and debts in a timely manner. All payroll and debts have been paid timely this quarter, ending September 30th. Shall not allow payments or other government ordered payments to or filings to be overdue. All federal and state withholdings are what we usually are doing, and those are made every 2 weeks, so there is no overdue payments there, or inaccurate funds. Shall not make a single purchase or commitment of greater than $5,000 in the building equipment reserve fund. In September, we paid $12,506 for the fire panel replacement, which was approved by the facilities committee in June of 2021. So that exceeded the amount that the superintendent can approve, $5,000. But each year you approve, you authorize the facilities committee to make those purchases so that they up to $15,000, so that it doesn't go to the it doesn't have to go to the board each time and require a special meeting. And number 8, shall not acquire, encumber, or dispose of any real property. None has been reported during this period. And number 9 is not fail to aggressively pursue receivables after a reasonable grace period. Austin notes that we'll be submitting for gear fund purchase requisitions of approximately $54,000 in the next few days. And the performance of this grant spans 3 fiscal years. It started last July and will run through September of 2022. So we have another full year to expend grant monies from that project.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns about policy 2.3? Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities. Moved by Nick, seconded by Lorraine. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion's passed. Proxy certificate of authority designation by the board for the October 27th virtual meeting.
We're entitled, Suzanne, to 2 votes, one for Nesbitt and one for VHI. And this is an annual event. In order to have somebody vote on behalf of the Career Center for those 2 areas, we designate someone who will be in attendance to be able to cast that vote on behalf of the board.
And if I remember correctly, we can also designate our vote to Visbit to vote
based on their recommendation.
Based on their recommendations, because we cannot endorse you to do this, because even if you were going, because you are a superintendent. So what is the board's pleasure?
We can vote by proxy on both of these, can't we?
Yes.
From what I've heard, there's not much business involved in either one of them this year.
Right.
That would be my suggestion.
Vote by proxy. So would you like to make that a motion, Steve?
Yes.
So Steve has made a motion to vote by proxy for the October 27th Visbit annual meeting and the VHI annual meeting.
I second that.
Seconded by Lorraine. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none and seeing no raised hands, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Nick and Judd. Policy for action, the education records, which is C1.
So this was presented at the last meeting. There have been no changes made. It concerns the importance of keeping accurate and appropriate education records for students. I propose that we adopt the policy education records.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Judd? So the motion has been moved and seconded to accept, approve Educational records, C1, actually, I believe the exact terminology is adopt now that my brain is kicked in. Is there any further discussion?
Is there a
Any
copy
questions?
in the folder? I didn't see it.
No, it wasn't recirculated.
I can put it on the screen if people would like.
People want to see it before we vote on it?
It should have been in last month's package, but I wasn't here. I wasn't present.
It was, Nick.
So it hasn't changed.
That's fine. I'm good.
I can show it to you right now if you like.
Well, I think that's okay, Dana. I think we can keep going.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right, hiring. Dana, you have a proposal for hiring through, I believe it is the end of the school year.
That's correct, yes. So we would like to bring forth the name Edward J. Cagle to fill out to be a long-term sub in the architecture and engineering program until the end of the year. Ed is a retired architect with 20 plus years of experience in the industry, and he comes highly recommended by the references that we have checked. And his demeanor, his engagement with students, and his enthusiasm for his craft are highlights of his candidacy. I have conferred with AOE, and he is eligible. All of the appropriate digital paperwork has been filed for him to be eligible for an emergency license to cover him for this year. The reason that we haven't applied for an apprenticeship license is that Ed, as I said, is retired, and he wants to help us out for this year, but is not interested in a long-term teaching commitment. And you can see his experience is quite vast, both in the architectural field, but also in terms of his education, with both a bachelor's degree and then from Georgetown, a bachelor's degree from Ithaca and a master's degree from the University of Vermont in student personnel. So he has a master's of education in that. So he has a double master's. The other one is in architecture. So it is with great pride that I present Ed for your consideration.
Well, if he's as good as his resume makes him look, I think it's pretty exciting opportunity for the students.
It's an excellent opportunity for the students. We are very lucky to have had Ed reach out to us when he saw a posting and ask how he might be able to help. So
maybe when Ed is,
He'll be the most overqualified long-term sub you've ever seen.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
so maybe when he's done his long-term sub, he might like to take a whip position on the board.
We can ask him that.
May I have a motion to accept the name of Edward, you say Cagle?
Cagle, yep.
Cagle for the long-term sub position in the architectural engineering program, ending, going through the rest of the 2021-2022 school year.
Yes, what I should let you know, Suzanne, is that he has a commitment in June, so it would run through the end of May. He can't go that all the way through the end of our school year, but the appointment would be for finishing out this school year. But I want to be transparent because he's already notified us that he has a commitment in June. So we would have to fill that out, and that's okay because most of our students would have completed the program by our celebration of learning which is right after Memorial Day.
All right. So a motion, someone please?
So moved by Judd.
Judd, and seconded by Lorraine. So the motion is to approve the name of Edward Cagle for the long-term sub in architectural engineering program to fill out the FY 21-22 school year with the acknowledgement that he has a commitment in June. Is there any further discussion? I don't see any hands raised, so proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Thank you, Steve, for keeping me honest. Now we'll go to reports of the board. Are there any questions on them or thoughts or anything?
Yes.
No.
Oh, sorry, Lorraine.
Two things. I'm assuming our executive session negotiations is going to give us some sort of news, and I just wanted to mention that in Austin's letter, perhaps he shouldn't have mentioned in his last paragraph about negotiations, since unless I've missed something, I'm not aware of his comment about reaching a point of agreement. So that might be something in the future we need to.
That would be a little premature for him to put in a report, correct?
Yeah. And then secondly.
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
And secondly, you guys have seen the community engagement report, I'm sure, and read it very, carefully. So I would just throw out Christina and I think had hoped tonight, and perhaps I dropped the ball on that, Suzanne. But we are looking at, since the vision and mission work we were tasked with doing is pretty much wrapped up at this point. We're wondering what our charge might be going forward, what the board might be looking at us to work on. One thing in the minutes noticed, and it also brought to mind tonight when John Kerler was talking about the sign out in front, the new sign. I guess before I was involved with this committee, there was some talk about perhaps renaming the Career Center. And I'm not sure, you know, how much talk there was on that, and whether that's something that wants to be discussed. But the other thing was, at our facilities meeting this past week, we talked about if the project was approved and going forward, that might be a very good place for the Community Engagement Committee to put some work in, if that was something the board thought might be beneficial, as we tried, you know, to try to get the word out to the public, maybe some meetings and informational meetings. So anyway, I'm not saying we have to discuss this tonight necessarily, but the committee is looking for how
direction,
like to see if we're going forward.
So how about Lorraine and committee? Sorry, I wasn't there that night. I was with a student that whole time. If we could put the charge of the Community Engagement Committee on the next meeting. I know it will be after the committee meets again, but if we can all discuss it as a group, because I do like the idea of the Community Engagement Committee carrying and helping carry out the or assisting the work of the Facilities Committee and getting the word out about what's going to happen next. The renaming of the center was brought up, I believe, by one individual in particular, and it was never, as far as I know, it's never really gone any further than that. It was a comment, and kind of that's where it ended, as far as I know. But if the board wants to look at that, we can put that on the agenda for another night. But I would definitely, let's do the community engagement charge for next month, if that's okay with you guys.
That's fine. We're still working.
Suzanne, I don't know, the Community Engagement Committee received a charge, just like the Facilities Committee and the Budget and Policy a while ago. That charge hasn't changed, I don't believe, in terms of being connected to the community and receiving input on a regular basis from them. I don't think that the board would have to have action on the the outreach and the support for a project that is going on with the school, just like the mission and vision statement. However, if you did want to name or change the name of the school, that would require board action, and that would require more in-depth work, and there would be a process by which that would have to be approved. You would have to apply for that to the Agency of Education, and you would have to take action and do promotional work on a change of the name. So unless you're going to actually ask the Community Engagement Committee to take on that work, I don't think that you would have to change the charge for the normal publicity and outreach that the Community Engagement Committee is doing. You could just let them know that that would be a good direction for them to focus their energies. But I don't know that you have to have a formal motion and board action to do that, because that charge was adopted about 4 years ago maybe.
Right, but if they would like us to discuss what we would like them to work on, then that does need to be an item for a board agenda. And the piece about the renaming the center was something that I was just responding back to, because I've heard one teacher in the past 3 or 4 years state that they wanted the center renamed, but I think that was, and I was just stating that as far as I know, that was where that conversation died.
Suzanne, that was a conversation that the Community Engagement Committee had years back, and it was definitely a group discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that, Dave, right?
And one of the questions, Suzanne, is the confusion with the supermarket. And I would tend to agree that it takes a lot of explanation for somebody to really understand what the Career Center is. And so that might be worth exploring it at some point, but I don't know that, I mean, as you're going through the discernment and the communication out to the community about the renovations to the Career Center, it might be something that you want to explore. But
right. So, okay.
Can I just add one other thing about the community? So, Lorraine and I and Jay are working on a kind of final document to be put on Front Porch Forum to announce the vision and mission statement. So I just wanted everybody to know that that's a work in progress and we're almost there. And we may be calling on a couple of people to help us post it in all the towns that we need to have it posted.
that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions around any of the other reports?
I usually post on Front Porch Forum from Mount Abe if you want to send me something.
Okay, thank you. Under other, whoops.
I just
Christina?
have one. Sorry. I'm on the Anwsd Policy Committee, and so I just wanted to mention something to the Policy Committee that we learned the other day, which was related to the firearms policy. Apparently, VSBA is reworking that policy, and they've actually taken it down off their site. So I just wanted the Policy Committee to just FYI know that, and that might be a policy that you might want to think about taking a look at after VSBA does what they do with it. Okay, thanks.
So thank you for talking about the VSBA, because that was my next question. Your board chair was elected two weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I don't remember what it was, to be the representative from this area to the VSBA. They meet the same Wednesday night that we do, and so basically the same time. So I'm wondering, my question is, would people consider checking their calendars and seeing if we could possibly move the Career Center meetings to the first Wednesday of the month?
No issue here.
Same, that would be okay with me, I think.
I'm in favor, Nick.
Christina, does it mesh with any?
I have a conflict that I could work around. It starts at 7, but I can we're usually done by 7, so yeah, we'll make it work.
Maureen?
I don't know. I have such a busy social calendar, Suzanne.
You know, it's cupcakes for the workers, but they're all gone now.
Well, I'll talk to you later. I think I can fit that into my busy schedule.
Okay, thank you. Kim, does that work for you? Missy?
I would say that that works for me. Tuesday nights would be better. I don't know why we choose Wednesday nights, but I can make it work.
I don't know. I don't think I was ever in the discussion about a Wednesday night meeting, but it's always been Wednesdays as long as I've been on the board. But, you know, at some point, if we want to look at completely switching the night, we could look at Tuesday nights.
Don't do Tuesday.
No.
Suzanne, does that work for our administrators?
Dana?
I can make that work.
Okay.
Linda, does that work for you as our minute taker? Okay. Thank you all for
my schedule is not anywhere as near as conflicting as Lorraine's.
Lorraine is so busy, you know.
So Suzanne?
Yes.
when is that going to start? And I think it requires a motion of the board so that we can warn that and put it in the newspaper so that we can be in compliance with open meeting law.
Right. So my first VSBA meeting, thank you, Lorraine, is the first, it starts right in November. I've already told them, they told me that meeting starts at 5 with dinner. And I think they said that by 6 o'clock, they're hoping to be over dinner. And I said I could probably join after 6. But if we could start in November, that would be great. If not, we could start in December. I'm flexible since I'm asking you guys to change something so I can represent you.
I'm fine with starting in November.
Is this a permanent change?
I would be on that committee for 2 years.
Oh, you're on a committee.
I'm on the
I thought this was just-
VSBA board.
Oh, I just thought you were going to their annual meeting.
No, I've been appointed, elected to the
Congratulations.
VSBA board.
Ah, you are a sucker for punishment.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that too.
All right, is that an official motion, John?
Yes, I move that we change meetings to the same time, 5 o'clock, but to the first Wednesday of the month,
Starting when?
starting in November, which would be November. Oh, my calendar just closed.
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Thank you, November 3rd.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded by Judd and then Nick to move our meeting nights to the first Wednesday, 5 o'clock, starting November 3rd. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none and seeing no hands, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
Good luck.
What's that?
Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Suzanne, I will have Patrice rewarn those meetings from November through June.
Thank you. So someone had asked earlier about funds that might be available to career centers. And I just wanted to read this note that I received. I had met with Sue Siglowski, who's the executive director for VSBA, and I had asked her, you know, if there's any money available for independent career centers. And she reached out to Heather
Boucher.
Boucher, thank you, who is the Deputy Secretary of the AOE. And this is what she said. First, she says, "Hi, Sue, thank you for your email. At this point, the independent CTE directors have met repeatedly with the secretary, me, and even the governor's office. We are very well aware of the concerns and are actively providing technical assistance. Some of the requests, lump sum payments to CTE centers put forth by the directors are simply not allowed for ESSER funds by federal regulation. We have urged the districts to present their sending districts with proposals specifying what they need that is allowable within the parameters of COVID ESSER expenditures. We've also put out written memos to superintendents urging them to consult with CTE centers, i.e. their plans for ESSER funds. I want to be sure you hear directly from me all that we have been doing within legal limits to assist the CTE sector. As you may know, GEAR funds are entirely under the purview of the governor. We are hopeful he will make funds available for CTE, but he likely has many pressing educational sectors, e.g. early childhood, higher ed, that are also requesting assistance. He has not yet decided what he will do with GEAR 2. The non-EANS portion of GEAR 1 funds all went to CTEs as another reminder. Unfortunately, we don't have power to change federal law and regulations. So I just wanted to read that so that people understood and it was very clear that CTE centers did not get ESSER funds. And that letter pretty much clears up any misconception around ESSER funds and CTE centers. So,
is she suggesting that the districts funnel some money your way out of the largesse of their hearts?
Yep. She's actually suggesting and saying that CTE centers need to like put together a little budget and say, these are our needs. Would you, be willing to help us out by, giving us some of your ESSER funds to help us out?
So Suzanne?
Yes.
Some of the things that have been brought up recently along those lines is that in addition to school districts, our partners receiving 3 rounds of ESSER funding totaling several and sometimes tens of millions of dollars. The suggestion might be, in addition to reaching out to them for some of the funding, that may actually, because they have construction funding that they're eligible for as well. So we might want to think about talking to them about helping us out with the bond if we start moving forward with that, because that is something that would be allowable under ESSER, and projects would have to be pre-approved by the AOE. So it would be a little tricky to get that done, but the ESSER monies, if pooled, could help us out significantly. We also have 17 towns in Addison County, all of whom will receive some form of ESSER support, ARC ESSER, ESSER 3. I know that municipalities have been reaching out to the public to ask how those funds could be spent. So we might also want to reach out to them in terms of our needs to find out what they might be able to contribute. Putting all of that together, we might be able to make a dent in the cost of the project that we have discussed this evening. And particularly as it relates to mechanical, electrical, and HVAC systems that support the health and safety of our building.
Exactly. Thank you.
Anyway.
Policy 4.1 governing style. Who wants to take a stab at it? Don't all jump at once. Lorraine?
I think it was a very, very productive meeting tonight, although we were a little bit behind because of some technical difficulties. I think there were some great questions, great information, and all in all, I think a very good meeting.
And thank you all to the board. I mean, you guys were all very patient when we ran into technical difficulties with the video. So thank you all. And everyone was willing to offer some help and support, and that was great. So we are going to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel. Dana, I have a guest that's sitting in the waiting room, and he is going to speak to the board before I bring you in. So can I text you when he's done?
Sure, I'll let him in.
All right.
We have to put you in a breakout room.
Yeah. So may I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations and personnel, and then Dana will send us somewhere.
So moved.
And so the only administrator that I need is Dana. Sorry, Patrice and Jay.
Okay, so am I joining you right away as soon as I move?
No, you're just gonna hang somewhere.
All right, so I need to admit, so let me admit him, and then I'm gonna set up breakup rooms.
Yeah, so do I have that motion from someone?
Seconded.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations and personnel. And we are going into executive session at 6:45.
But we have to vote on it.
Oh, sorry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Dana, are you moving us somewhere?